Foundation of Missouri and Kansas strives to increase awareness to support people living with a life-altering condition of epilepsy. As part of their fundraising efforts, they're holding an evening of opera. And here with us are Emily Swobada of the Epilepsy Foundation and soprano Kathryn Favazza. And Kathy and Emily, welcome to both of you. You've got a personal story of epilepsy in your life, and that's what drew you to Emily, and we're going to talk about all that, but tell us your story.
So when my daughter was 6 months old, she had her first seizure, and there was no known cause, no fever, nothing that we could relate to it. So we went to the neurologist, we waited, and at 9 months...
This scared you.
Very scary.
Yeah.
Actually, interestingly, I wasn't even home. My husband was home with my daughter. And it was very scary at first, didn't even know what it was.
Did it last a long time? And describe what that was like for somebody who maybe hasn't experienced that.
Sure. So for Sophia, in her particular case, she has tonic-clonic seizures.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of maybe what we all think of as getting really stiff and maybe a little bit of shaking. And that one probably lasted about 2 minutes. But because we had not experienced it before, he called the ambulance. We went to the hospital, underwent some tests, an EEG, and some other things.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately for her, there was nothing wrong with her brain, but so it was just unknown.
Okay.
So generally when that happens with a child, they send you home to see, you know, it might have just been something that happened once.
Right, so then it happened again.
So it happened again at 9 months, and we went in again, and then we started medicating and trying to get the seizures under control because she did then start having more.
Okay, so you still didn't know really what it was.
We were still really puzzled about it and did a lot of reading and talked to the neurologist, tried to find people who had this similar experience.
Yeah. So fast forward at some point then, and she's still a little one, she's 6 years old, right? Today?
Almost 6, yes.
Almost 6, okay. So at some point then you discovered that the actual diagnosis of epilepsy?
Well, her diagnosis is epilepsy of unknown cause, and she was diagnosed at her second seizure.
Okay.
So for Sophia, because there was no trauma associated with the seizure or fever, at that point, at the second seizure, we had the diagnosis of epilepsy with unknown cause. All
right, so Emily, I'm going to switch to you, and we're going to talk about epilepsy because you are with the Epilepsy Foundation here of Missouri and Kansas. And is Kathy's story one that a similar story to what you hear often?
Definitely. We hear from a lot of people who call and ask for, you know, like a first time, like a mother with a child who's just been diagnosed. They'll call and say, you know, my child has epilepsy. We've just been told my child has epilepsy, and what do we do? You know.
All right. And so, what do you do with a call like that?
Well, we first listen, and we find out what the situation is and what they've already been told and what they've learned from their neurologists in particular, and then maybe they're going to need some education, or depending on the child's age, like if they're in school, they might need to have us come into the school and maybe give an education presentation on seizure recognition or seizure first aid. Okay. That's something we can do.
Okay.
Other than that.
But typically, do you hear from parents of small children? Because we know that epilepsy is across all ages.
That's the nature of epilepsy. I mean, it's so mysterious and so broad, you know, ranging that it affects people from birth to old, you know, to the elderly.
Right. So Kathy, and you reached out to Emily at some point, and because you were the person on the other end of the phone.
Definitely.
And said, what can you do to help me?
And what can you do to help me? But more importantly for me, I had already been through the massive struggle, and Sophia was seizure-free when I approached Emily at the foundation. So my goal was really to try to help parents who were in my position that I was in years before, maybe not have such a struggle. So I reached out to Emily and said, hey, let's raise some awareness.
Kathy was more, what can I do to help you?
Nice.
I mean, Kathy.
Did you get those calls?
No, you were. She called and was like, I have this huge idea, and I want to help raise awareness and help you guys. So.
And how did that feel?
I was like,
to get that call?
Okay, that sounds awesome and really fun. And she's like, I'm an opera singer, and I'd like to put on this event. So I said, okay, let's meet.
And
that was in April.
Yeah, just a few months ago.
Yeah.
But a lot has happened since. And we're going to take a quick break right now. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about what's happened since April and how you two have grown in your friendship and you're working together towards this common goal. So stay with us. We've got Kathryn Favazza and Emily Swobada coming back in just a minute to hear more about An Evening of Opera. Stay with us.